The following thoughts on Happy Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Happy Hour.
Are you feeling classy today? Sit down, pour a glass of wine, and listen to Happy Hour.
You're tuned in to Happy Hour, an hour where Happy rants about something. Sit back and listen in. Happy Hour is on now. Happy Hour is on now.
From the 98 Rock Morning Show with Justin, Scott, and Schlegel, the host of the top-rated show in Baltimore, is live on Happy Hour. What's up, dude?
What's going on, buddy?
How's it going, man? Dude, I listen to you guys whenever I'm up. There's like 5 or 6 shows I listen to via TuneIn, and your show is so intriguing, dude. It's one of the most unique shows out there. I love what you, Scott, Mike, and them do, and Schlegel, obviously. Dude, it's great radio.
Dude, that's really cool to hear, man, especially from someone that knows good radio like you. That's cool, man. Thank you.
So how has everything been with the show, man? Because I don't get to listen every day. I'll listen to the podcast while I'm delivering pizzas here in Tampa. But, I mean, how's the show been?
Things have been good, man. We got there's been a ton of changes in 98. We got a new general manager, a guy named Kerry Fahigian, and then we had a really big change with a new program director by the name of Rick Strauss. And Rick is special in and of the fact that he was the guy that basically handcrafted what I still consider to be the greatest 98 Rock Morning Show ever, Kirk, Mark, and Lopez. So this is a guy that knows not just good morning show content, but good morning show content in Baltimore on 98 Rock. So you're working with the guy that helped create the legacy that is 98 Rock. So on one hand, you're excited because he's got so many good ideas. On the other hand, you're kind of intimidated because he was there during a golden age that he looks to bring us back to. And the dude just listens to everything. Christ, he doesn't let a single thing slip. The guy just listens to every single minute of the show.
What is some of the best advice that he has given you guys?
One of the best things that we did was get in real quick to something. One of the best pieces of advice that he gave us is that in our modern, hyper attention deficit disorder era, you got to get in real quick with something, usually in 10 seconds. And it could be a non sequitur. It could be something super strange like, welcome back to the show. We're all high on cocaine and Mike's bleeding out of a hole. Text in and guess which hole, and I'll give you tickets that don't exist. Something real weird right off the bat. And someone will be like, okay, wait a minute. There's a radio show guy telling me he's jacked out of his gourd on Yayo, and one of the people might be bleeding out of an orifice. Roger, shut up. Tell the kids to zip it. This is about to get weird. So that's one of the best things that he's told us is get right to something, right to it. Don't meander. Don't take a long time to make a basic point. Get right to something, and then you can take your time.
How much of your show is improv? Because I love how you guys have comedy and you're goofy, but you also talk about the news. So how much of it is prepped, and then how much is like improv and on the spot?
Josh is incredibly prepped. Josh spends so much time handcrafting each news that he'll get done on a Wednesday at noon, go home, nap, eat, and then at 3, he's working on Thursday's news. He's crafting bits, he's doing characters, he's recording stuff. He had a thing that he played about Joe Biden this morning when he decided not to run for president, set to Gone Too Soon. There were all these great drunk Scotch-hammered Biden clips, like the drunk uncle who wants to show you his bees at a barbecue. And he had all the great stuff put together. So he'll spend a lot of time crafting his portion. My stuff is very improvised. I will get Josh's news. He'll give us a heads up what he's going to do the following day, and I'll swing some ideas around in my head. But I have a lot of things that are at my fingertips, sound effects, beds, characters. I have a huge master control setup. A lot of what I do is very improvised, and Scott's a real nice mixture of the two. Scott can riff with me. Scott can prepare stuff with Speegs, and he's a former producer, so he's got a real good ear for when a break is done or where a break should go. So Scott steers the ship. I make it very improvisational, and Josh brings stuff that's pre-prepared, guaranteed to be funny.
What are some of the bits that you have done recently that you are so proud of where you guys came up with it right at the spot?
Oh, Fart Harley. Fart Harley. One of our favorite things that we've done is you ever heard of the Sleep Talk app you can download on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, we have Josh download the Sleep Talk app. And Josh is just adverse to farting. He can't do it. Like, he can't bring his body to just let one rip. But he's still a human. They still happen. He just stores them. So we make him record himself while he sleeps, and his body just deflates. I swear to God. It's like Rosie O'Donnell doing jumping jacks in a room full of whoopee cushions. The amount of horror that crawls out of this guy's grocery haul in the middle of the night is shocking. So we get all this audio of him farting in the middle of the night, and then Scott starts laughing because he points out that it sounds like a really huge Harley Davidson starting up. Just one of these grotesque farts of his. I mean, they literally go on for 6 or 7 seconds. And then I fire up the Sons of Anarchy theme song, and I'm firing up this, like, fart sound effect, and Scott's doing this voice of, like, some old grizzled biker, like, yeah, I'm about to hit off on the highway, and then I'll fire off this fart sound effect, and the Sons of Anarchy thing's playing in the background. And it was a day that Josh was out, actually, and Lowell Melzer from WBAL was filling in, and he's usually very straight-laced. And he cracked. And one of my favorite things, like when you watch SNL and all of a sudden the sketch just falls apart and everyone starts laughing, I love that. Well, that happened to Lowell on air. Lowell just loses his mind. He can't take it. He's laughing his ass off. So I start laughing. Scott won't stop doing it. I keep playing this thing. It's available on YouTube on the website, and it was completely out of nowhere we started doing it. It's called the Fart Harley, and it's so lowbrow. It's so dumb, but it's so funny that if you don't laugh at it, you have a jet black heart.
Has there ever been a bit that you were so proud of and you thought going in you were going to nail it and then it just didn't work on air?
Yes, 100%. It was early in the show that I just joined up with the guys after the old show went away and new show came on, and I was going to have all these like sound effects and stuff and all this. I wanted to do this inner monologue thing where Keith Mills, our sports guy, can sometimes ramble. Scott sometimes likes to go off on a tangent. We all do. We all sometimes, I mean, listen to my answers right now. We all get long-winded. Well, I recorded these things of me in like this deep, deep, sick reverb, almost like I was talking in a dream.
Yeah. Just
telling them to shut up, like, oh, God, I wish you'd just shut up right now. God, I'd love to take a claw hammer to your kneecaps right now and just, I want to Nancy Kerrigan you with a tire iron. I did nothing more than, just to let your legs on fire, to get you to shut up. Like, and I would play this stuff in the background. Like, I would turn him down slightly, and I would turn this stuff up. And it was good. I thought it'd be funny that in the middle of some long ramble, you hear someone's inner monologue going, oh, God, shut up. Just shut. And they didn't, like, no one laughed. Like, no one in the room was like, are you telling me to shut up for real? Like, no, I thought it was kind of like people were, it just got really, it was a good intentioned bit that really, really felt flat. And all I did was end up just pissing people off because all my coworkers thought I was telling them to shut up, when ironically, I'm the one that has the most trouble not being long-winded.
Has there ever been a bit that you guys did on air? Because you just said that some of the coworkers didn't find it funny, but let's switch it around. Have you ever done a bit on air where it offended one of your coworkers, maybe outside of the show?
God, I'm trying to think. Not really. I mean, for the most part, we all kind of know what our no-fly zone is. We all have stuff we don't talk about.
Yeah.
We all have personal stuff that we know, hey, maybe we don't bring this up, talk about this, talk about that. No, not really. There's never been a thing where you got off there like, dude, why'd you come at me with that? What the hell? No, for the most part, we're pretty good about knowing each other's boundaries.
So how did you get your foot in the door at 98 Rock?
Well, it's funny. I actually, a lot of people know me as a stand-up that got into radio, when what actually happened is that I was in radio for many, many years before I got into stand-up. I actually moved away from home to become a broadcaster in 1999. I worked at a bunch of different stations. I worked at WYCR, WHVR out of Hanover, Pennsylvania. And then I got a job at Infinity before it became CBS. And I worked at a cluster there where I would write some comedy for Rouse and Company on occasion. I worked at a hip-hop station there, X1057 Jams. I was the assistant to Hawaiian Ryan and Priestley at B102.7. And, yeah, for years and years, I was slugging away doing overnights and weekend stuff, board op stuff, the occasional promotions guy. And eventually, CBS that I worked at, or Infinity, it kept flipping format. And they kept changing from pop to urban pop. And then urban pop became rock. And then rock became hip-hop. And then hip-hop became talk. And then after like the fifth or sixth format flip, I kept getting bumped to the back of the line, and I quit. And that's when I started doing stand-up as a way to kind of get the creative juices flowing. And then over the couple of years, I met Kirk McEwen doing stand-up. I met Mickey Coachella doing stand-up. And then they brought me on as a guest, like a young guy that was opening up for them. I would be their feature or their MC. And as I got into the radio station as a guest, I really made it known, like, hey, guys, I got into stand-up as a backup because radio didn't work out for me years ago. If anything ever opens up here, anything, I mean literally anything, I'll take it. And the program director at the time kept that in mind, and he started giving me some weekend stuff, overnight stuff. I remember I was doing overnight board-op work on Christmas, on New Year's, on Thanksgiving, and I'd start doing fill-ins for people. And then in 2010, after doing a bunch of fill-in work and weekend stuff, I finally got my first full-time thing there doing the night show from 7 to midnight.
What is that like when you loved 98 Rock and all you wanted was a foot in the door? What is that moment like, dude, when you find out you're the night show host in a major market?
Oh, I lost it. Full tilt, full on, try and be cool. Be cool, Justin. Don't lose your nuts. Don't sob like a 3-year-old. Don't burst into tears like a fat kid who's having his ass cracked, tickled with key lime pie. Lock it down, dorkwad. And the minute I got into my car, lost it. I mean, lost it. If I could eject tears versus them actually streaming down my face, I would have sprayed the inside of my windshield. A snotty, blubbery, awful mess. The salary was good. It wasn't like I was going to get rich or anything like that, but it was like, oh my God, I am going to have just a radio job that will afford me my rent, that I will eat from, that I can put $1 or $2 away each month. It finally happened 11 years after I moved away from home. A long, twisty, windy path when I finally got that full-time job as the night show guy, which, oddly enough, former 98 Rock night show called Irresponsible Radio, Theo and Joe Robinson, who was he's now on the 98 Rock team helping do Ravens postgame. And they had an evening show, and Joe eventually parted ways. It was just Theo at night, and it was actually supposed to be Theo and Justin at night. And Theo had some personal stuff come up in his life that he needed to attend to. You know, he was a father. He was trying to take care of his family. I think he had an opportunity come up, but he had to suddenly leave. And Theo and Justin didn't happen. I was told it was going to be Theo and Justin, and then like a week before it was supposed to start, we actually did one remote together. We did a remote out of Looney's Bel Air, and a couple days later, I get this heads up like, hey, he's got to leave. Theo and Justin ain't happening. And it was the opposite effect of me sobbing in the car once I got the full-time job. I lost my mind thinking, I'm not going to get a job there. It's over. It ain't going to happen. But the program director at the time, Dave, was like, no, we still want to bring you on. We still see value in you. It'll be different. You'll have to be a one-man show. They'll save the money, frankly. There won't be 2 salaries at night. But, yeah, it all ended up working out.
What were some of the bits that you would do at night that helped gain you traction?
Well, you know what's interesting? Nights were very, very quick. The night show at a station in the weekends and stuff like that, it's kind of like a farm league. You still get some good cume from 7 until 9. Obviously, it's not what an afternoon drive show is or a morning show is, but you still get some good listenership. But then from 9 until midnight, it really drops off, and it becomes a safe haven for someone to learn to do good, consistent radio. And you got to be very, very brief. You got to be, that was that, here's a fact, wacky story, up and out, 20 seconds. So what I learned at night is I didn't have so many bits as I did song introduction, music facts, stuff like that, the occasional character voice phone call. It was very brief. I learned at night, when you're a one-man show on a music-oriented program, less is more. Where I started doing bits that I started developing my comedy on air, that was in afternoons when I took over for the legendary Stash, when he parted ways with the station, and I was afforded some longer talk breaks. That's when I started to develop some stuff that I thought was killer.
What bit do you think it was that got you the morning show slot back in 2013? Or how did you end up getting that slot?
Well, I had a couple of bits that I thought were great. The big one was Who Wants to Get Hung Up On, which was, I was basically taking radio bits and turning them on their head. People love to get on the air and talk and hear themselves while they're in the car. It's a quick little 15 minutes of fame for a radio listener. But some of the stories are just awful. I mean, just god-awful. Like, for the person talking, it's great. And occasionally you get a gem of a call. They're like, man, what a fun call. What a great story. But more often than you care for it to happen, it's just this droning, blubbering, am I on? Am I on? You're definitely on. Am I on? Is this me? Who the hell else would it be? Let's get going, Jasper. Put your good teeth in and tell me your tawdry tale from the back of that meth clinic you're at right now. And it's just a train wreck. So I created a sound effect that it just said, you got hung up on, like a bunch of children chanting it and then giggling and yelling, and then there's like a loud ding and cheers. So when a call would just be going awful, I would just hang up on someone and play this big sound effect declaring you got hung up on, and people started wanting to be hung up on. They started calling in just to get hung up on. So I let them know on Wednesdays, 4 o'clock, give me a ring, you're going to get hung up on. And people try and see how long they can last on the phone call with me before I hung up on. And it really became a thing. We did T-shirts about it. We did stickers about it. It was a real regular thing. So that was one of the bits that I did in the evening, alongside another one called Caller 20 Wins Nothing, where people would not, more often than not, if you are giving away something, say, Ryan, I'm telling you, at 2 o'clock, I'm giving away Metallica tickets at 5. Be sure to call in at 5 for Metallica tickets. I'm telling you this at 2. Moments later, the phone lines are going to flood with people asking if they won Metallica tickets. When I swear to Christ, I just told you, don't call till 5. It ain't happening. So I did this bit called Caller 20 Wins Nothing, where I basically was making fun of people that only heard what they wanted to hear. So I would do something like, right now, 1-800-767-1098, Caller 20, Metallica, they're not coming to town. They're not playing. You, 20 friends, you're not going out. You're not going to see a show. You're absolutely not going to get a hotel and $1,000 in spending money. You know why? Because I don't have any of that stuff. Caller 20, right now, give me a ring. You're winning nothing. And the lines would explode. And you'd get some slack-jaw, hee-haw eating beans out of a hubcap somewhere that only heard Caller 20 right now, Metallica, 10 friends, hotel, $1,000, Caller 20. And people would call constantly, thinking they won something. Even when I told them the name of the bit was Caller 20 Wins Nothing. And it was just taking radio bits and turning them on their head. And sometimes being a little harsh, but lightheartedly, I would make fun of myself, self-deprecate plenty. And the program director at the time liked it. And I would fill in for Mickey Cucella quite a bit on the Mickey and Million Spiegel show. And Mick was dealing with stuff in his personal life. He was trying to get a comedy career going. He was working on a new business. He's a real family guy, really wanted to spend more time with his family. And he parted ways with the show. And I filled in just so many times that it seemed like a natural transition just for me to take over for Mickey. Amelia wanted to take a break from morning, so she took over for me in afternoons, and I came down into the morning show slot where they took their old producer, Scott, to have him take over for Amelia. I took over for Mickey. Josh stayed where Josh is, and the old assistant producer, Mike, got made executive producer.
How nervous were you, or were you pumped when you found out that you were going to replace a legend like Mickey, or was it one of those things where you had no time to be nervous?
It was the second. I had no time to be nervous because, Mickey and Amelia, as much as I love Kirk, Mark, and Lopez, I truly thought they were the gold standard. Yeah. Mickey, Amelia, and Spiegel were incredible also. They had their heyday. But what benefit they had versus what we had with our new show, Justin, Scott, and Spiegel, was that Mickey and Amelia had been together for a little while in afternoons. They were together in the evenings, then they were together in afternoons, and they were killing it. So when it came time for Kirk and Mark to leave and they went across the street to another station, Mickey and Amelia already had that chemistry. So they just took their afternoon show, started doing it in the mornings. With us, it was they came in on a Friday and said, hey, you're the new morning show on Monday. You, Scott's moving up. Mike Anderson's your producer. Josh is staying where he is. You guys have all weekend to get together. See you on Monday. So whereas they had years to work on chemistry, we had 48 hours. And I'll tell you what, dead honest, those first few months of the show were garbage. I mean, they were straight up liquid ass. They were dumpster juice bad because we didn't have any real time. We came up with some stuff to talk about, and Baltimore is a city that's adverse to change, so we get a lot of hate mail. So we just kind of embraced it and just read hate mail for a little while and put people on the air that were telling us we were awful, and kind of forged a bond in the fires of hatred and rancor over those first couple of months. And we got chemistry, and we found each other's abilities and our connections. But yeah, like you said, I didn't really have any time to be nervous.
Yeah.
Because it was just, hey, you're not doing afternoons on Monday. You're the new morning show. See you then.
So was there any nerves going through you where you're like, crap, if the ratings are bad, they're going to get rid of me? Like, were you in the zone every day to bring good content, or was it always in the back of your mind that you could get fired if the garbage radio kept going?
You know what? I am blessed to work for a great company. 98 Rock, unlike some certain other companies, and Hearst in particular, Hearst is very patient with their talents. They're not going to invest in a morning show and create production and elements and promotions and build up a groundswell of attention, and then if things don't work out great, blow them out. No, they're going to give them time to gestate and to grow. So. And I knew that from my experience at nights and from my experience in afternoons. And both of those were learning experiences for me. And it took time, and they eventually got to be entertaining programs. So I wasn't worried compared to – I have plenty of friends in the industry. I've got a lot of friends that people are shocked to hear when I tell them I'm friends with people at the Fan or I'm friends with people at DC 101, what happened. I know folks over at the Bay. No one dislikes each other. But – Hearst and 98 Rock have a very good reputation on a corporate managerial level of that when things get rocky ratings-wise, they don't blow you out. They'll take a look and say, what's going on here? We're not going to let this go on forever. But they're not going to be like, okay, you were first, and then you were third, and then you were fifth. Hit the bricks.
Yeah.
They'll see, okay, you were first, and you were third, and you were fifth. Okay, what's going on? What's changed? Let's take a look what we were doing back when we were first. And then what happened between first and third and fifth, or fifth and seventh? Let's stop doing this. Let's start doing this. Hearst is very, very patient with their talents. They're also very smart with their money, too. Hearst, we live good lives, but none of us are rich. None of us are making heyday, Stern, Don and Mike Greaseman money. None of that. We're well taken care of, but Hearst, you swap a financial windfall for the stability of knowing that you really got to try and screw up there to get let go.
Yeah. Was there one show that you did where you went, finally, the morning show is going to be better than ever? Was there a celebrity you had on or a bit where you guys talked after the show and you're like, we finally have it down and everything was good?
There wasn't one moment. There have been a lot of great moments through our admittedly short life. It's only been 2.5 years of the new show. But there was one moment I was very, very proud of, and it was a very out-of-left-field type thing for our program. You know us. You've listened. We're farts and cartwheels and sound effects, and Josh's crazy news, and Scott's the great New Yorker ball buster, and Mike's a weirdo. I mean, we know what we are. But there was a moment after the Baltimore riots where we had to kind of lock it down and understand that this is a city that's hurting, and we can't come in and do a bunch of wackadoos and zizzle-zazzles and finger guns and, hey, what would happen if your cat farted on your cereal? Like, you can't do that while a city is on fire. So we had the mayor on, and we had spoken with the mayor, Stephanie Rawlings-Blade, many times before in better times. And we would our gist with her was, hey, we're not going to ask you all these hard-hitting political questions. We're going to talk about, hey, what's the hottest hot wing you ever ate? Or, you ever yell at your neighbors, or do you have an aide that, takes huge dumps or whatever? Well, we couldn't do that anymore because the city had all been burnt to hell. And admittedly, I felt like this, and a lot of people did, that she'd failed the city and didn't work with our Governor Hogan and whatever. Everybody knows what happened in Baltimore earlier this year. And we went in on her pretty hard. Because we came at her as the everyman, the everywoman, the person who is frustrated, that is scared to go downtown, the person that is worried about the city that they love is burning. You don't know when the next, group of miscreants are going to pour into their neighborhood and loot and riot and whatever, and then saw, the BPD, who, we genuinely have a good relationship with, outside of a few bad apples that got the whole ball rolling with the Freddie Gray incident. You saw them underserved and underprepared for what happened, and we really, really tore in her verbally. And she wasn't used to that. She wasn't used to having, us ask her serious stuff. It was always a chip shot when she talked to us.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to get what she got at, like, WBAL with C4, Brian Neiman, those guys that's very intelligent, well thought out, politically slanted questions about policy and what have you. But then all of a sudden we did. But it was with a level of anger and frustration that we felt it was our job to express, because the everyman in traffic and at the blue-collar job doesn't get a chance to have an audience with the mayor to discuss where things went wrong. So we felt it was our duty to do that. And it really blew up.
Yeah.
The interview got passed around. The Baltimore Sun picked it up. I believe the Post picked it up. Fark, Huffington. It really was. It was a very special moment for us because it wasn't what we do, but what we did that morning was very special. And it was really the first time I felt like I had served the city, and I had done a duty and a service to the people that had taken the time to listen to us for so long. I was able to try and let some of their rage and frustration flow through us and let her hear it.
Yeah.
And it was a special morning. It really, really was. That was a real high watermark for us, which was odd compared to what we usually do.
Dude, there was one interview you had with her maybe in June, and it's where Schlegel talked about how he asked Facebook and everything said, quit. And she sounded so uncomfortable when Josh said, would you ever quit, dude? That's when I was like, wow, this show is legit. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that distinctly. What's interesting is that's the second time we talked to her. Excuse me, that was the first time we talked to her after the interview that I just told you about, where we really went in on for the first one, where I demanded an apology from her for failing our police officers and failing the citizens and all this. Well, we had a long gap in between our next time we talked to her, and Josh is a genius. I mean, Josh, it'll be decades before people really truly grasp what a genius Josh Schlegel is. So instead of going back in on her again, because ever since the riots, everything it just gone completely to hell with Baltimore city government, and crime through the roof, and what have you. Josh figured out a way by putting the question out to the people to where Josh didn't come across the villain by asking it. He was merely relaying information from a populace. So it wasn't Justin Scott and Spiegel coming at her again. It was just, hey, I posed a question and I'd like to read some responses to you. So Josh was still able to hold her feet to the fire without it feel like she was getting attacked by us specifically again. And it was beautiful.
Have you guys had her on since? Because once she hung up, dude, I could feel the awkwardness, and I'm all the way here in Tampa, dude. It was legit.
I think we've had her on once more after that, and it was after she had declared that she was not going to run again. And it was a little more lighthearted, still a little more serious than in times gone by. But yes, since the Baltimore riots, there have been 3 interviews with her, each one progressively calming down as the city itself calmed down.
Yeah.
But that one interview right after the riots changed the mood of her administration towards our show and people's views about our ability to interview very strictly, very aceribically to the listeners forever. And I don't know if and when we'll ever talk to her again. We're trying to actually establish a new relationship with a new police commissioner, who we have a lot of, Kevin Davis. He was interim and now he's full-time, and we got to have him in there, and we have some words that will just stay between us off air, and this is going to be a guy that could usher in a new age in Baltimore. So we're going to try and make him our next man on the inside, the way that the mayor herself was our, individual on the inside, that we can get a peek into the city's inner workings. We're hoping to cultivate something with this new police commissioner, which seems to be a nice middle ground between the rough, tough, get stuff done of an Ed Norris versus the highly educated but almost a little too white-collar of Batts, who was the other police commissioner during the riots that has since left the position.
Now, I want to ask you this. How similar is The Wire to real-life Baltimore? Because that's my favorite show of all time. And I want to know, is the crime and how they depict the town, is it pretty similar?
It's obviously sensationalized some.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing in how accurate it is. It genuinely is. Recently, I moved to Annapolis. I was kind of done. Where the CVS that burned down during the riots, that was half a mile from my place. I could smell it burn.
Really?
Scott, I did. I could see the black smoke. I could smell it burn. I have, I have a firearm that was ready to go if people felt like making their way down towards us. And, I felt any kind of in danger. Luckily it never happened, but the city is not doing well. And we love it. It's almost like this is going to sound weird, but like the parent of a child that is really screwing up, that might have gotten into drugs or might have gotten, run-ins with the law, you still love them. But you're really disappointed and you're fearful of what's going to happen next. And you never will not love that child, but you will forever kind of have a curious eye turned towards them and kind of be tense around them. Baltimore has plenty of great places. It really, really does. I mean, I still spend a ton of leisure time in Baltimore, but it's not a safe city. It's not a city that trusts its police force. It's a police force that doesn't trust its citizens. And it is, like you pointed out, The Wire, homicide, life on the street, a corner. People don't do theatrical or television depictions of Baltimore because we have good seafood in a pretty nice downtown area. No, they do it because sometimes it is a murderous, apocalyptic hellscape where 3-year-olds are getting shot in the face and no one's figuring out who did it, or bodies are turning up in the harbor left and right, or our murder rate is 3 to 4 times that of New York City.
Are you serious?
It's a city I love. Oh, man. It's the per 100,000 rate. That's how they judge the murder rate of a city, how many murders per 100,000. It's bad. I mean, we're not to the level of like a Detroit or a Newark, but we ain't far off. And I would like to think we have hit our rock bottom, and with this new police commissioner and a new day upon us, and as soon as these Freddie Gray trials are over, it could improve. But it ain't a safe place right now. It's a place I love, but I would be lying to you if I told you it's a safe place. And a lot of the depictions of heroin use, of some really squalid areas of the city with a lot of dilapidated and derelict row homes, that stuff's true. I mean, sensationalized in The Wire, yes, but not a completely inaccurate depiction, no.
Dude, I'm from Chicago, as you can probably tell by my accent, and I've driven through some of those bad parts, man, and it's just weird. Would you think that crime and bad parts of towns are getting worse, like in Baltimore or Chicago, or is this just because of social media and, like, the media in general that it's seeming like it's worse? So what do you think? Is crime getting worse, yes or no?
Yeah, I think it is. I think crime's getting worse, but how much worse, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, we have all these, we have a lot of mass shootings. You have a lot of school shootings. You have a lot of workplace shootings and things like that. I think, like, incidents like that have always happened. I just think it's with the advent of social media and instant news that where if something like this, like a school shooting, happened in the 1910s or 20s, it might take weeks for that information to reach another part of the country. As to where if something happens in Seattle, Washington right now, 45 seconds later in Miami, Florida, people know.
Yeah.
So the amount of information free-flowing from one area to the next, and if it bleeds, it leads, the classic line. No one's going to tell someone in Fort Lauderdale all the way from Denver, Colorado, what a great steak they had at a local Ruth's Chris. No, they're going to tell you if someone happens to go into a Build-A-Bear and chainsaw someone's head off. That's the stuff they're going to talk about. I think, obviously, with the spread of weapons, and you're talking to a Second Amendment guy. I'm a responsible gun owner, but I think, there are some real wackadoos out there with some highly advanced weapons that, they might not have had in the 10s and 20s. You can kill a whole lot of people real quick with an AR as compared to a classic Derringer single-shot pistol or a musket from a century or two ago. And I think we've become desensitized to violence.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've become desensitized because, not with video games, not because of violent depictions in movies. I think because of the constant barrage of stories on your Facebooks and Twitter and Instagram and what have you, of people live streaming through Periscope violent acts. I think, we have become desensitized. I think there's a thing called compassion fatigue where, you hear about a school shooting, it's horrible. You hear about a school shooting again, how could this be happening? And a third one, my God, what's happened? A fourth one, it seems to be a thing. A fifth one, oh, man, that sucks. What am I doing for dinner tonight? A sixth one, without a school, oh, Christ, look, UPS is here. Your brain just starts to get it in and get it out real quick. And I think we've become desensitized to it. I think it's gotten worse. I don't think it's gotten, like, marginally, noticeably, horribly worse. I think it has gotten worse. But I think we're just being deluged with so much information right now. It's one of the reasons I don't have a Facebook, a Twitter, a Vine, nothing. I have no social media. None. I miss the days of wondering what someone was up to. I miss the days of having to find out what an old friend has been doing. I don't care about most people's mundane, just got back from Ruby Tuesdays, love a grilled chicken sandwich, let's take 20 effing photos of the thing and put it up in some weird goofball photo grid collage. I don't care. I just don't care.
I think the biggest thing is with the keyboard, it's become this weapon where people can hide behind a keyboard, talk smack via Twitter, talk smack via Facebook, and that brings out the fake outrage. And that is why we are so desensitized to violence. Wouldn't you agree? I just think things are getting worse. I think the movie Idiocracy is coming to life. I've been saying this for 5 years now, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, that Mike Judge movie. But now, dude, everyone is on that plot line. I really believe the internet is the downfall.
You want to read something along the lines, imagine the prophecy that it was Idiocracy that was a comedy at the time, and my God, each day it's looking more and more like a documentary.
I know, it's weird.
Do you read comic books at all?
Not really.
You should check this one out. It's a graphic novel. It's available digitally if you want to, but it's called Tokyo Ghost. And they're on two issues right now, and I'm not sure how many they're going to do total. But it's specifically about what social media would look like in 200 years from now. And you imagine in 200 years, you don't go and check your Twitter, you don't go and check your Facebook. It's built into your ocular lobes to where there's a nonstop stream, YouTube, Vine, Twitter, Facebook, Craigslist, Periscope, Instagram, everything is constantly in front of your eyes. You can't look away. And the desensitization has gotten so bad. It's psychotic almost.
Yeah.
And you can hack other people's to where you can imagine you get a Twitter account hacked into now and someone has nudes posted. Imagine someone is able to hack into the Twitter in your brain and make you see certain things that only you can see, and they drive you crazy and make you commit violent acts. It's like Idiocracy, except not funny at all and terrifying as hell. And getting back to what you were saying about keyboard warriors, there's a classic saying: if you want a man to speak honestly, give him a mask. And that essentially meaning to hide behind something, and not have to show their face and own it, is a way to get someone to truly show what is in their heart. And I think humans, for the most part, are just freaking despicable sometimes.
Oh, we are.
And it's where we live in an era where if you said the things people say now on Twitter, and I know you get it, and we get it a lot. You heard us talk about that hate mail segment. If you said the things that people say to us now, 80 years ago, when you actually had to physically walk up to someone and say, hey, Ryan, hey, Justin, your shows are garbage, you talentless, worthless, no capability, hack jerk-offs, we would swing on them. We would, there would be an altercation. They would have to have the immediacy of a response. That's the cowardice of modern day social media, is that it's a one-sided conversation. A generation is growing up without having to be accountable for the things that they just said and just typed, because the person they're sending them towards, they don't have to be in front of it. They don't have to say it. And what's very interesting is, like when we first started, we would get this hate mail. And then we would see these people at events and things like that. We would remember it. And be like, why did you say this? 9 times out of 10, I swear to God, they would just be meek and meager and mumbly, and all that bravado and bass was gone out of their voice. And they would just be, I'm just making fun. Just trying to get a reaction. You guys are great. You guys are great. Can I get tickets to something?
Yeah, right.
Like, whoa. Where's Conan the Keyboard Barbarian that sent me a 5-page Facebook post earlier about what a piece of garbage I am, and what a talentless group of hacks we are.
Yeah. And
when you meet them in person, or they actually have to have their comeuppance of a response away from the safety, the cowardice of the internet, it's pathetic. You almost feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't bother with. I genuinely, outside of using the station's social media, which I help out with sometimes and post on, I avoid it. I don't mess with any of it, and I'm 1,000 times happier for it.
Yeah, dude, I keep mine just because I want to grow my brand of my show and what I want to do in radio. But, dude, when I worked for Rover in Cleveland, dude, the fans, they would talk so much hate. But then when you meet anybody at the bars, Hoppe, can I get a selfie? Hoppe, let me buy you a drink. Not once did they say I'm a loser who isn't funny on the air, but online, you're a loser. You're a hack. No one loves you. It's just funny how These dudes are so unhappy with their lives that having these anonymous accounts almost brings them joy, but they would never say it to our face because, and I will say it, they are pussies. They would never say what they say in 140 characters to us because they would get punched in the face if we weren't radio guys. They would never say this to a lawyer or to an accountant. It's a sad life, dude, because it's a second world that doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
And think about what you just said, too, which is interesting, us radio guys. And I made this point before, and I've even had this talk with Kirk McEwen, who is one-third of the famous Kirk, Mark, and Lopez. There was an old term back in the day. It's no longer used in our industry, but there was something called the boss jock. It would be like, how do I put this? It was almost, he wasn't a program director, but, man, he was a swinging dick. The guy had a lot of sway around there. The Grease Man was like that at one point. Kirk, Mark, and Lopez, I wouldn't call them shock jocks. They were boss jocks. These were guys, Wolfman Jack, big boss jock. Casey Kasem, you could almost refer to as a boss jock. I mean, these guys were legends in our industry. But what they didn't face that we did is this social media deluge. If they had somebody that wanted to really get up in their ass about something and really criticize them, they had to either get through on one of the 6 lines or mail a letter. I mean, these are shows that didn't have that it's first there wasn't email. There was no email. I remember looking at one of the first Kirk, Mark, and Lopez websites, and it was like an old GeoCity site before 98 Rock and plenty of other companies around them all at the same time began to have a more refined web presence. I mean, the act of emailing didn't occur. So if somebody hated them or if somebody really had a disagreement or really had some just vitriolic, vengeful opinion of them, there were so fewer ways for them to get that to said junk, as to where you and I and all our contemporaries, our Chad Dukes, our Mike O'Mara's, our Roaches at DC 101, our Colleen Carews, our Klugs, people right now can immediately, by the hundreds, by the thousands, just pour hatred onto someone. And that's something us radio guys a generation or two ago didn't have to deal with. I say we are probably in one of the more difficult, challenging eras of radio ever, that those boss jocks of yore didn't have to, and they dealt with hate. They still dealt with hate and weirdos and wackos and stalkers and what have you. But I think their avenues, those weirdos, wackos, and stalkers, to reach them were so fewer compared to what we have to deal with today.
Have you ever had a weirdo or a wacko or one of those crazy fans that has gotten mad at you and took it way too seriously and didn't realize that it's just radio? Have you had one of those fans?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we all have. Oh, yeah, we have. Trust me, I've had some conversations with HR departments and police departments. There's a couple of people that we pay particular attention to. I moved out of a neighborhood once.
Really?
Because of people just showing up at a door. Some well-meaning guy in a neighborhood I lived in put down that I was going to be at their block party, and he released a flyer up, and he was like, "And Justin from 98 Rock, our neighbor, is going to be there." And I saw that. I'm like, "Oh my God! You just told everybody that I live in this neighborhood." This is right when I took over the morning show. And then what started with a couple of people just stopping by, started turning the letters in a mailbox, just random bangs on the door at night. And I had a girlfriend at the time that I lived with. I got uncomfortable by it. Yeah, we got to deal with our wackadoos, which is why I stay pretty off the grid. If you want access to me, if you want to hear what I have to say or interact, I absolutely pipeline it through the radio station and the radio show. Because I think what you said about, having a bunch of different social media platforms to grow your brand, I'm of two minds here. A, you're completely right. And you should have avenues outside of your radio station to do it. And that's why I use our station's social media. But then you get some people that have just 50 different platforms, and I think it spreads them out too thin, as to where I could have 1 million Twitter followers. I could have hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. But if my ratings aren't great, it doesn't matter. That's when I'm going to get into trouble. I want everybody to have to be funneled through that 97.9 FM signal to get to us, to get to me, to get to Josh, Mike, Scott, and Wendy, and turn increasing ratings. I think if you spread yourself too thin across so many of these platforms, you're doing a bunch of things okay, not one great.
Yeah. I never thought about that because I do a podcast and then I interview people, but I'm debating about this thing I'm doing via Periscope. I'll film myself doing my rants on my show. And I had somebody here who's very big at 102.5 The Bone tell me that I should quit doing that because when I upload the Periscopes to YouTube and then I have Hoppe TV, he says that's taking away the potential listens to my podcast. But to me, I thought about it. I think it grows the brand because then people will want to check out the podcast. So I want to get your take. Should I keep doing the video and the podcast or just do the podcast? Because I've been really thinking about how to grow my brand, especially with all the competition that is in the podcast pool, dude. There are so many little guppy fish amongst the big boys like Adam Carolla, Kevin Smith, etc.
Yeah, I think you guys are both right, and yeah, you're correct about the Sharks versus the Minnows. I mean, you've got Mark Maron, Adam Carolla, Nerdist, a couple others, and then there's a huge drop-off to the next level of people to where they're making hundreds of dollars a year doing podcasts with a ton of listeners. Very few people are really making big bucks from it. And one of the funny memes that the new digital age love to pass around is, the waning days of terrestrial radio and the advent of podcasts. Terrestrial radio is to where 10 years ago it had a 96% penetration rate in homes or in people that listened to an audio entertainment medium. It's dropped from 96 to 92. So it's not like there's been this huge slice of the pie taken away from it. There's more opportunities in podcasting and stuff like that, but the rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. 92% of the population still uses AM, FM radio for music, news, sports, what have you. Now, to your other question about what your coworker said at the Bone, I think you guys are both right. What I would do if I was you was I would Periscope portion of what you do. I would Periscope a highlight or two. I would take that stuff and put it online, but give them a taste. Give them a pink sampler spoon, Baskin-Robbins, little taste of that. They want both scoops. They got to listen to the podcast. Give them a taste. Give them a highlight reel, maybe at the end of the week of a bunch of some of the best stuff that you did. Say like, man, this Ryan Hoppe guy, he's got this. This is great, and kind of leave it at a cliffhanger. Leave it at a really good point you're just about to make. Had you listened to the podcast, listened to the radio show, you would have got the whole thing. Let the YouTube and let the online portion with the Periscope, let that be let that be a little taste. Let that be the free bread before the meal. But let the show itself, let that be the content. I wouldn't do the entire show posted, entire show broadcast. Just posted stuff, just a bit of it.
What do you think the future of radio is, especially for young adults like me, a.k.a., as the media says, the millennials?
It's got to be more. It's got to be more efficient. A lot of people, and you even heard me say the ADHD nature of the world we're in. I sometimes think millennials, who I obviously give a lot of crap to sometimes in a joking light, I think it's not a laziness thing with their time. I think this is a generation that just doesn't want their time wasted. That's all. I think this generation that people are very quick to label hyperactive and having trouble with their attention spans, I like to think of as a generation that values their time more and values the content that they get more. It better be quality. It better be quality versus quantity. That show better be real good that I watch. It better be Breaking Bad quality, or I'm going to check out on it real quick. That interviewer better be a Mark Maron quality cat, or I'm not going to go back and listen to him. I'll give someone a couple of chances, but I'm not going to continue to slog through a bunch of garbage. Like, I used to love the Dukes of Hazzard. Love the Dukes of Hazzard. You go back now and you watch it, And it's complete garbage. It really is total garbage. But generation, my generation, we just kind of sat through garbage to occasionally get a couple of good nuggets. This where these days, you roll out a show like a Dukes of Hazzard, it's going to last a season and get blown out. It wasn't it wasn't very good. It had good moments, but it wasn't very consistently good. It's to where you're getting stuff like Breaking Bad, you're getting Walking Dead, you're getting, really incredible stuff on HBO, you're getting The Leftovers. You got a lot of real great programming on right now. And I'm talking about TV, but in this generation, it's so funny that they thought reality TV was going to take over, and that didn't happen. I think this generation was like, no, the reality, while it still has a place, the stuff people talk about isn't the reality. And who talks about American Idol anymore? Who talks about Dancing with the Stars, The Apprentice really much anymore? They talk about well-scripted, Vince Gilligan, Sons of Anarchy, Kurt Sutter quality shows. I think these millennials these days demand quality. So that's what a radio show or a podcast or some entertainment medium needs to be, is people really need to be on their P's and Q's about quality. That's it. That's why I'm not a huge fan of the let's shotgun a bunch of garbage across 10 different mediums and, internet social media platforms. Do one or two. Make sure that the content that goes out is great.
Now, you just brought up a great point that we all love great content. We love great shows. But then why the hell are those talentless skanks known as the Kardashians famous, bro?
Sex sells. And let's just say, that is, I'm not going to put their success on the shoulders of millennials. I'm going to put that on the shoulders of those that went before them. I think there's Gen X, Gen Y, millennials. I'm putting that on Gen Y.
Yeah.
That was during the sloppy reality era. Sex sells, and it all emerged from a sex tape with Ray J. Really.
Which is awful. It's an awful
It's really
tape.
bad. It's total garbage. The sex tape itself is utter slop. And we're a nation that gave Jessica Simpson's less talented sister, if that's such a thing, Ashley, a hit album. We're not necessarily a nation that for years really was known for being into quality. But I think we're in the waning days of that. There will always be garbage reality. There was garbage reality decades ago. There's going to be garbage reality decades from now. There will always be that one head-scratching, how the hell are they famous? Tiny Tim. Look back at Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim was a freak. He was weird. Tiptoes through the tulips with the weird-ass ukulele and that creepy Amber Alert-ass vibe of his. That was a weird dude. And it was more spectacle than talent. But there was a contingent of people that just liked it. I would like to give this generation moving forward credit, and that I don't think you're going to see Kardashians be norms. They'll always be there. They will be outliers.
What do you think of this Lamar Odom crap? I'm a Laker fan, so obviously I was rooting for him, and I never want to see a dude die. But now I believe that the fact that they broke up, or now that they're back together, rather, is because they're going to make reality shows, bro. I think this is going to be bad, dude. I think we're going to see Lamar and Chloe part 2, part 3. I think it's going to be an ongoing thing forever. That's what I predict.
Well, you know what? Here's what I think could happen. This could actually be, you heard of the term something reaching critical mass?
Yeah.
Where it gets to be too big, a bubble bursts. I would like to hope that if things are true about the condition of Lamar Odom, which don't sound very good. It's like someone like a Tracy Morgan who went through what he went through, but was able to pull out of the fire and resurrect himself and was great on Saturday Night Live. He's going to continue to forge on after something really bad happened to him with his car accident. Lamar sounds like, if rumors and reports are to be believed, that he's going to have some pretty bad brain damage. To the extent of it, who knows? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I haven't heard him speak or anything like that. Someone will snag the Lamar Odom interview. Some Barbara Walters type will do it. But if it's bad, and it's hard to watch, and it's tragic, and it just reeks of sensationalism. It might be too much for us as a nation. And while we can be some evil bastards at times, I'd like to think we still have a heart, and it could be a critical mass where finally people are like, okay, that was the line. That was the gross point. That was the point where we all turned it off because it was just too sleazy, too slimy, too grotesque.
Yeah.
It's very blatant what they're doing and how gross it was that they all wanted to bring camera crews along and all this sort of stuff. And you've gotten that backlash from people that aren't like, oh, man, we're very curious to see how Lamar and Chloe work out. No, the storyline right now is what a bunch of dirtbags for bringing a camera crew along. That's the plot right now. Not a lot of people are curious about, what their relationship will be like. The curiosity is what sort of scumbag, what sort of dirtball brings a camera crew to a guy who's clinging to life by a thread?
Especially since that type of life is what led him to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that it was not a glorious way for a guy to get back into the limelight or damn near do himself in. I mean, this guy was a successful NBA player that is now being referred to as a Kardashian star who OD'd in a whorehouse desert. No one wants that. And I think as a nation want that. Really, really, I think there's a group of television execs and Kardashians that think that's what we want. But I think this might be when people eventually turned on John and Kate plus 8. With Kate Gosling, who's just a putrid individual. When just an awful, awful individual. I think people will finally turn. I'm hoping.
Remember
that's my
Spidey,
hope.
Spencer, and Heidi from 7 years ago?
Oh, yeah, with Laguna Beach and the hills, and that star was never supposed to stop riding. And that whole thing went tits up when it got real gross and real slimy with the reality show, Get Me Out of Here, I'm a Celebrity. People are like, oh, screw you. What is this? This is drivel. We're a nation that'll put up with some crap sometimes. I think the millennial generation won't, but I think there's still a large enough television viewing audience that will. But I think collectively there is something that can taste so bad that people turn on it. And I'm hoping that if they decide to go forward with this, that's this. That people are like, okay, this is slimy. I don't want anything to do with this.
What I love, dude, is nobody wants to see him die. He's a nice guy who has problems, this and that. But we're praying for a guy who OD'd on Viagra and cocaine in a whorehouse, and he wasn't complete with his divorce, so he sort of cheated on her, and now they're back together after he cheats on her at a whorehouse with 2 skanks. So that's the person we're praying to. You know what I mean? I'm really hoping that your point is right, because if this isn't the turning point of when we ignore this despicable family, then we're done as a nation. Because the fact that we're praying for Lamar's healing, yes, we don't want him to die. But the fact that we're actually praying for a dude who went to a whorehouse, man, dude, we have a lot of problems when it comes to being moral people.
Yeah, I think the people in charge of putting that out there. What's interesting is I still have to monitor social media as a means of research for my show. I don't interact with it, but I still have to monitor for stories, for memes, for topic pulses. And when you say praying, when you say people pulling for and curiosity, I think that is a storyline that those at the top that are creating the story are putting out there. But I think the populace so far has pushed that plate of food back across the table and been like, hey, we're not really – I haven't talked to anybody yet that is like, oh, man, hang on every word about Lamar's condition and their relationship. They're discussing the grotesqueness of this and the sleaze of this and how just awful this is. I think that's what the powers that be, the Ryan Seacrest puppet masters, the Oz's, the people that pull the strings, they're trying to create that plot line that a nation holds its breath to see if Lamar can not just pull his life together, but his relationship.
Yes.
Will they be the phoenix rising from the romantic ashes of drugs and cocaine and whorehouses? No. No. That's not what the public is truly interested in. We're like, this is a new shitty low. This is a new bad low. And pardon my language. This is a new gross era in reality. And I think I'm not worried about us as a nation. I think those executives in the boardroom that push this out, this slop like this, I'm hoping this blows back on themselves.
Now, before I let you go, I just want to get your take on this, since Josh Spiegel talks about it all the time, since he hates Donald Trump. Is there any chance in hell that this dude could be president? Is there any way that we'll sort of forget about how he bitched out Megyn Kelly and the crowd goes crazy and it made for great radio and it was a very popular viral video? Is there any way that he'll be president, dude?
I don't envision it. Do you watch House of Cards? Have you seen House of Cards on Netflix?
I saw like 8 episodes of the first season, then I got bored.
The first season, if you recall, there was a point where they were trying to appoint a young politician higher up, and they had to sit him down. And they sat him down and be like, all right, it's time for you to open up the ledger of your life. I need to know every last hinky thing you've ever done, anything that could possibly bubble to the surface that you've done. If you were banging ladyboys in Thailand and doing lines of meth off of some stripper's ass out back of a duck pin bowling alley in Lunch Meat, North Dakota, while a midget was tickling your bees, I need to know. You need to tell us. And I know that's a real trope. There are PR people that have to ask that sort of stuff. You have to crack open the books. And I think when it gets to that point, he's going to pull back. I mean, he's a shady dude. He's a shady dude business-wise. It's refreshing to have just this weird, wackadoo, drunk uncle in the presidential race. And I think, not to Trump's credit, and this might sound odd, but I think it's a testament to the American populace that we're just kind of done with the dynasty. We're not ready for another Clinton. We're not ready for another Bush. I mean, the likelihood of there being a third Bush is so mathematically bonkers with a Jeb Bush that you mean to tell me that this isn't some sort of weird, almost Renaissance patriarchy, that this isn't some weird monarchy, I should say, excuse me, that when the possibility that a third member of the same family is going to be president with Jeb, or a guy's wife who's always had political aspirations, and another group of millionaires in Clinton. I think this is a nation saying, you know what? We will literally take anything other than the slop you've been trying to force feed us for 30, 40 years. And yes, that is a crazy, bananas, Herbert Camacho, Mountain Dew, Elizondo from Idiocracy. Damn it, we'll take it. Because everything else has been such garbage for so long that we're ready to take anything but a politician. So will I think will be Trump? No. I don't think he'll get the Republican nod. I don't think he'll run as an independent. I frankly don't know who it will be. Biden is not going to run. Clinton's behind the 8 ball. Maybe Bernie Sanders could be a dark horse. I don't envision as a possibility. Absolutely. How would that presidency look? I have no idea. It would be like the nation all collectively took mushrooms for 4 years. It would just like all of us just swallowed mouthfuls of peyote as the insanity unfolds. But I think it is a testament to a nation finally being like, you know what? Anything other than what we've been served for so long.
Yeah, dude, because everybody said there is no way we would ever have another Bush in the office after 2008. They're like, yeah, screw George Bush. We've had enough of it. And the fact that Jeb even has a chance, dude, just shows that there's really no good people out there running. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some analyst and I can break down everything going on.
Oh, no, I'm a moron when it comes to it.
But the
fact
fact that
just
Jeb,
everyman, the third Bush, come on, mathematically that's insane.
Yeah. And he doesn't even look like he wants to run. He shows no charisma, no passion, no interest. Dude, my cat at home shows more passion for being a president than him. He just seems like he's going through the motions, seeing what he can do. Now, when you look at a guy like Bernie Sanders, I don't know much about what he's saying. He scares me because he seems like the crazy old neighbor that has passion, but he shows more initiative for wanting to help America than some dude like Jeb, who just, to me, talks like Dale Gribble from King of the Hill or one of those guys.
Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you.
Well, dude, before I let you go, because this has been a magical 70-minute podcast, and I know you got to go to bed soon for your top-rated show tomorrow. Where can people find your work online and on the radio?
If you want to find us online, you can go to 98online.com. You can go to @JSS98Rock on Twitter.
Yeah.
I do run a lot of the social media stuff for the morning show, specifically the Twitter account. You can text us at 56332 in the mornings. If you'd like to, it's free. iTunes, App Store, Google Play Store. What's going on with you weird BlackBerry people? Search 98 Rock Baltimore, and you can download a free app. The app is great. You can stream us anywhere. You can interact with the show across all the different social media platforms you millennials love. And, yeah, man, that's it.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on Happy Hour, because I love what you guys do by having a fun, edgy show where you're not hacky and you're just a bunch of dudes hanging out. Like, I feel like I know you guys, even though I've never met you, which is what I love about your show. So it's been a lot of fun talking to you for the past 72 minutes.
It's been a good time talking to you too, brother.
All right. Thanks, dude.
All right. Take care, man.
All right. Bye.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.
This is an official broadcast of Hoppe Radio. For more info, check out hopperadio.com and hoppesworld.com.